This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. This would be our first podcast in 2024.
Correct.
How
Now,
you doing, Timothy?
I'm okay. The collective experience of celebrating New Year's, I don't know. I guess I'm contrarian. I celebrate with people I like all the time. I don't need to be told when to do it.
Oh,
Of course,
forget about
everyone's New Year's is their birthday. So I mean
it.
the Roman calendar New Year's, whatevs. But
Well, let's just say welcome to 2024 because 2023 was the bloodiest year in a while. So, I mean,
okay,
we're talking about shootings. So, from Texas to
oh,
Maine,
in the United
total of
States.
40 mass
Oh
killings
yeah,
involving guns. And this is mass killings. This is incidents where at least four people died, not including the shooter, not to be confused with mass shootings where victims don't necessarily need to die to be included in the casualty count. But also, I mean, look, more people kill themselves with a firearm each year than those that are killed with one. And that nearly two-thirds of the more than 40,000 gun deaths that occurred in the past year were suicides. Yeah.
yeah. It's
And
insane. There was a great article, after Nikki Haley got in trouble about the slavery and Civil War question. There's Krugman wrote a pretty interesting piece today that basically, the whole argument about states' rights. With slavery, with the runaway slaves, it started becoming, what about the states, the abolitionists who didn't want this? Suddenly they have to police for these states that are insisting on still having slaves. So it's like you're going on our rights. So it's the same with the guns stuff. Which is basically like, okay, all the murders and suicides are leaked to guns that are bought with basically no background check in the South. It's like, well, that's states' rights. Yeah, but you're fucking with our rights. It's
yeah,
such an
yeah,
asshole
our right to
position.
live.
Right.
Hello.
Exactly.
Well, also, just to finish these stats from 2023, it was a record year in terms of teens being injured or killed by incidents of gun violence. 1,381 injuries and 3,861 deaths. That's not
Jesus
including, of
Christ.
course, the numerous suicides.
So I mean, what did you think? That mass murder thing that what happened in Idaho, that university, I think it was University of Idaho, or anyhow, would you? It was controversial that they tore down the murder site house.
Yeah, I mean, you know, almost in any building that's over 100 years old, there's been murder, birth, death, love. I
Well,
don't,
it was controversial amongst the victims' families. So some of them said, "You better hold on to all that evidence to the bitter end."
yeah,
But then, of course, it was getting vandalized. It was like a real pain in the ass, this house, and they didn't want to deal with it. But that's what seems like a little bit of a gamble.
it, I don't know what to say. I mean, they have a problem taking down Confederate statues, but no problem, getting rid of a murder house. None of it makes any sense.
That none of it makes sense.
None
Did
of it
you
makes sense.
see? We talked about it actually with the pod with Jack a little bit, but did you actually see the footage of the plane crash in Japan when their Coast Guard was trying to provide, they're providing aid and doing their work for the
I
earthquake?
have to
It was
say,
terrible.
I did not. Too
It is
busy
ins-
watching the earthquake in
well,
Japan and the
so the
tsunami.
earthquake by itself was so destructive, like really insane. But yes, there was a passenger plane, Japanese Airlines, landing, and it didn't see this Coast Guard, a small Coast Guard plane, and basically destroys it. Those people were dead, but every single person in the Air Japan lived, and it wasn't like, oh, nothing really happened to him. That whole fucking thing went up in flames in 90 seconds. But no one was panicking. It was real Japanese, like falling into order shit, like stay calm. Meanwhile, flames are screaming next to these people's windows, and they all slid down that little inflatable ramp, and no one died as this thing
No
basically
one
blows
died.
up behind them. Insane. But
Well, speak about insanity. I don't know if you heard of this little one out of Torrance, California, but 1,000 juveniles clashed with authorities from 11 different law enforcement agencies in a shopping center, resulting in the arrest of only five of the youths. I mean, it began Saturday at the Del Amo, maybe it's Delamo Fashion Center in Torrance, when the police saw a group of juveniles engaging in disruptive behavior. The thing is, 1,000 is not a group I don't know how these
That's a mob.
skirmishes.
Well, they conspire on social media.
Yeah, of course.
And now basically, and this I think is also intentional for the CEOs from a lot of these retail places. Like, if you see someone shoplifting, don't chase them. And so then if you go to a store now, everything's locked up. It's a real pain in the ass. It's basically the takeover of Amazon and all this shit. So it's
sad. It's sad. Who the hell?
It's kind of funny, but it's also it's kind of symbolic to basically the collapse of physical retail.
First of all, if you keep a third of the country and near poverty, when you have such low minimum wages, when you have no opportunities for so many people, when everything is so fucking expensive, how can there not be a flash mob? I'm surprised there's not more flash mobs myself. I don't know why I don't have a one woman flash mob.
I mean,
Jesus, I don't have a coat big enough to hide all the things I want to steal.
But these kids don't even want this stuff. It's a rebellion against consumer fundamentalism, which is basically done nothing but fuck them over in many ways. I mean, these garbage products that don't last. I mean, the whole thing's a lie.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
What about these false bomb threats in like 7 or 9 state capitals today?
I was just hearing a little bit about that. I mean, 2024 is going to be it's a hot pot. It's a bomb, a brewing, whatever. I mean, for
a Molotov waiting to go off.
Oh my God, it's going to be interesting. And of course, it'll be announced before this episode comes out, but they're about to list, give all the Epstein names.
Well, that should be very interesting because
in the next couple hours, they say.
Yeah, 200 names. I mean, who's not going to be on there is probably going to be easier to itemize.
It's oh boy.
Look, not everybody is just guilty by association. I mean, we can't completely paint the stroke because he was a master manipulator.
Sure,
and had his hands in many different pots, to put it lightly. And he was just a master con man.
For sure, but this hopefully, as the country gets more polarized, maybe this will join forces, because in terms of deviant transgressive sexual acts, that's not Democrats versus Republicans.
No, that's exactly. And again, like most conspiracies being a quarter correct, it's not as if, and Epstein was the classic case, there was a ring of pedophiles pushing young pubes in the face of others. I mean, it does exist. It's just you can't say, oh, it's Democrats, oh, it's Republicans. No, it means sex trafficking, pedophiles, the abuse of power. It's all part of the American, and it's all part of frickin' life, which isn't going to change. Awareness doesn't make a change. Are 200 names coming out going to make anything different? Well, let's fucking hope so.
Well, I mean, Dershowitz is everyone's anticipating. He's definitely on
liar.
That, and
God,
he definitely thinks he's above the law.
I mean, there was who would want to have sex with him unless they were forced into it anyway. I mean, that's fucking horrible.
Well,
I mean, I'm not making light of the horror that underprivileged girls were manipulated into selling their precious commodities just to get a new fucking dress after being manipulated by basically a cunt cult leader. Filth.
Going from hot water to cold water.
Please throw some on me.
Yes. Well, the New Year's tradition of the Polar Bear Club. They're all in Rockaway and in Coney Island, where basically in the middle of the winter, a bunch of people go running into the winter temp ocean. And they swear by it. It creates this insane brain rush. I know, like, if you go to the Russian banyas or what they do in Finland with the saunas,
cold,
super hot, and then rolling into the snow, or dunking themselves in an ice bath afterwards.
As far as I'm going to go is putting my face in a bowl of ice cubes I never even have to do that, so I don't know.
Well, it's supposedly it creates like a pump, so it's supposed to flush out a lot of the plaque in your arteries, but it seems like that could create a stroke or a heart attack. I don't know. I'm a little cautious with that one.
I think you prefer water that's a slight bit warmer.
In general, I mean, I can handle cold water, but that doesn't seem exactly.
No. Well, Tim, I've never experienced with you. Not that we all don't at some point do it, but we amongst ourselves are conscientious enough to not. But I have to ask you, and this is an important question.
Sure.
Do you think it's healthy to smell your own gas?
It's
Farts.
funny.
I mean, I hate to say the word because it's not very attractive, but they have a bad rep, mainly because they deserve one.
Well, I'm gonna say, I want to hear what you have to say, but there's the joke. Farts are like babies. Only you like your own.
Well, I don't even know if everybody likes their own, but okay. For instance, I mean, is there good or is there bad gas? And, obviously, you let one rip, is going to be silent, is it going to be deadly, is it going to be loud, but whatever. But mainly, I mean, we release gas for a few reasons, like food digestion results in gases, or sometimes when we just swallow too much air. But the medicinal chemistry communications, and according to a recent study, says that the gas hydrogen sulfide, which gives those little squirters their smelliness, it actually might have potential to combat heart disease, stroke, kidney failure, dementia, and aging. What? Hang on a minute.
Oh, boy.
Oh, okay. All right. There's some contention about whether or not the science is referring to smelling hydrogen sulfide, but they did look at how hydrogen sulfide actually in the mitochondria, right, that they can actually go in and just make us healthier. They can go in and produce, like the mitochondria produces their own hydrogen sulfide to protect the cells from dying. Okay, so when disease progresses, the ability to create hydrogen sulfide also diminishes. So scientists are wondering whether if we created a mimicked version, like canned farts, I mean, okay, which they named AP39, and then they exposed them to diseased cells. And they said, well, the results indicate that if stressed cells are treated with AP39 or a fucking smelly fart, the mitochondria are protected and cells stay alive. So I guess it's back under the covers for you, my friend.
I think this is all a big ruse. First of all, who discovered this? And I'm gonna ask you this: do you think there's one person?
Well, I told you that it was. Go ahead.
No, do you think there's at least one person who's read this news, who's been kind of closeted fart smelling fetishist, has come out and out of the closet right now?
Well, I mean, look, they were basically. They were investigating mitochondria and the gas itself. That it was the Cleveland Clinic of Medicinal Chemistry Communications. So it's not just some fart. It's not just some fart smelling incel.
Well, this is the real Cleveland steamer, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the thing is, I mean, I don't know, stinky or not, it could be telling you something about your diet, your intolerance, underlying health conditions. But who wants to be the fucking sniffer of this? I'm just asking.
There's some fetishists out there that are into this.
Certainly, hey, there's a fetish for everything. But hydrogen sulfide, it regulates the vascular function, inflammatory responses, neurotransmitters in the brain, many different things. Okay, but that at higher concentrations, it can actually kill cancerous cells. Now, okay, this probably won't happen by just inhaling a stinky toot, but I'm just saying. I'll stop there.
You think you think with people who really?
I mean, it reminds me. We have Jack Sargeant on as our guest. His book was Bad Cop, Bad Cop. This could be just I mean,
sort of like when people are not getting enough oxygen, they put the oxygen tanks. Do you think there'll be like these flatulence tanks with like the tubes in their nose in the future? I mean,
well. It's possible. I mean, I don't have the stat on me right now, but I know that supposedly we release a lot more of these little stinky toots every day than we bother to count. I'm certainly not taking account.
Yeah. Well, speaking of counting,
please do change the subject.
Yeah, Cher is doing her best to put a block on a court order to give her son Elijah Allman, the son she had with Greg Allman, from receiving this huge amount of money or amounts of money.
Yeah.
He's on this trust and he's been getting some money since 2017, but a big one's coming through because she's like, well, he's completely mentally ill and he's in this relationship with his wife or his girlfriend.
Wait, but is Cher not somehow mentally ill as well? I mean, doesn't all that surgery tend to make you think somebody might not be on the up and up?
I mean, I think the guy Elijah's gonna win this one, but she claims he's got a big opiate addiction and with his girlfriend or wife Angela, and this is going to kill him, and she wants to block it. But it brings up the whole Britney Spears thing. I mean, I have no idea, but she's in the news basically not wanting him to get any more money. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one because whether you have all the money in the world or just a tenner, you want to kill yourself, you're going to find a way. There are a lot of accidents, of course, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If
if
he's got an opiate addiction and he's got a lot of money, wouldn't that be better than like getting some street fentanyl and just croaking? I mean, I don't know what the details are. But.
I mean, and how old are you at the point when your stepmother should no longer patrol your every movement?
No,
now, I mean, obviously, somebody wants to protect somebody else's life, but
the kid's obviously handicapped. The neglect was a long time ago, and and here we are.
I mean, yeah, well, you know how I feel about people that can't handle their intake. I'm not very fond of it. I mean, moderation in all things except for moderation, but just, do what you want, but you got to be careful. Yeah.
But
you got to be careful going to the butcher shop as well. So just,
Or as you say, you've given some people advice.
Did you say orgies? Well, you got to definitely.
Certain people you give advice to, don't die dumb. That's what you say.
I love to say that to my friends. Don't die dumb, or I will haunt your fucking ghost. Now that does terrify most people into straightening up at least a little bit, at least zipping their pants up.
I'm gonna give one little plug this weekend.
Go ahead.
I'm doing my duo with Azumi OE at the Sultan Club in Bushwick.
Oh,
and wow. It's a duel. It's 2 acts. It's us, and then it's Peter Evans solo trumpet, who's been on here before. So
sounds fantastic. What night?
Sunday night. Now there's a snowstorm this weekend. We'll see if it happens.
Wow.
But it's
Azumi. I'm looking very forward to our upcoming 3-way, you, me, and Buto Goddess Azumi in the near future that we are
2024 is going to happen. About. Yep.
Well, something to look forward to now, isn't it?
For sure. There's something to look forward to, which is this week's guest.
Well, this week's guest is my friend for many years, written many books, philosopher, I'd say, of the underground, Jack Sargeant, and I'm very excited we have him on here now.
Yes.
This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Jack Sargeant. All right, I almost want to break into an Eminem song. I would say it's 3 a.m. in the morning. I put my key in the lock. Body's lying all over the floor. I guess I would have known, but it's only 6 p.m. here and 10 a.m. for you. And we're still waiting on the Stalin magnificence of Timothy Dahl. But I'm just going to do an introduction. He can come in whenever he wants. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, eventually Tim Dahl, and my good friend of many years, Jack Sargeant. To describe him, well, first of all, author of over a dozen books and dozens of articles, including the best thing that's ever been written about me, which was an overview of one of my installations. He is an expert in underground culture, in beat culture, films of any kind of excess. I'm going to name just a few of the books because I can't name them all off the top of my head. Deathtripping, which of course was about a lot of the Cinema of Transgression. Naked Lens, which was all about beat culture. He also focuses on William S. Burroughs more than I wish he would, but that's just me. Guns, Depth, Terror, Born Bad, Bad Cop, Against Control, Flesh and Excess. I'm sure I left a few out. Yeah, and also curator of, since 2007, I believe, the Revelation Film Festival in Perth, has curated many shows, both art and films. He's just a precocious motherfucker. What can I say? Hi, Jack.
Hey, I'm still precocious.
Yeah, I don't know. We saw each other recently, just a few months ago. I mean, I wish we could see each other every few months, of course. There's Timothy Dahl.
Yes. Hello.
Well, I've already introduced the show, so welcome to it.
Yep.
Hey,
Jack, as I was saying,
we
just ran into each other was it December, I believe?
Yeah, it's in Brighton. For the suicide shows.
It was a damn good show, and especially with Tina Kitt, my favorite new band, opening for the Suicide Tribute. That was fantastic. And I got to hang out with your very sarcastic, reminding me much of myself, daughter. What a
Oh
piece
yeah,
of work she is, but I'd expect nothing less.
she's entertaining.
How old is your daughter?
Oh, it's just turned 16, so
All right.
it's fun, but it's kind of intense.
Okay. Were you did you kind of like co-planned family visits with this trip, or did you go directly for the shows?
No, it was annual trip back to see family and friends in Britain.
You know what? And don't bring her the next time because she's doesn't know how good she has it. I mean, she doesn't realize how many of us had really fathers that were assholes, and she thinks you're an asshole. You know
Oh,
what, Jack? You could adopt me anytime because my daddy's dead.
it's that thing, right? That you try to explain that, to kids how lucky they are, but they wouldn't see it because they don't understand the struggles other people have. But I mean, she's 16 and now she's getting to that point where she's recognizing that. It's kind of interesting.
I hope that my influence on that conversation we had, where I was just trying to straighten her out about, come on, sister, you can be as hateful as you want, but don't you're hating the wrong guy.
But it was funny because that trip, so she came to your show and obviously she loved it. Then at the end of the trip, we ended up going to see a grindcore band with her. And she really got into grindcore and she's up the front, just headbanging to this grindcore gig.
Wait, which band was it?
The band was called Sea Bastard.
Okay. Were they headlining?
Yeah, yeah. And just for the name alone, I thought that was great.
Is she a Napalm Death fan?
So the speed that kids get into stuff is kind of insane.
Right.
Because they don't have that organic thing that we had where we're
Right.
searching for stuff. It's just all there. So, within a few hours, she's consuming Napalm Death and Carcass and all that stuff.
And
That must have been a great night.
Did you ever see the original, like, Carcass, Napalm Death back in the heyday when they first kind of emerged?
I DJ'd a Napalm Death gig in Brighton when I was about 17, 18.
Okay. And which lineup was that? Was because there's a few lineups.
This would have been 86. So I'm guessing the second lineup. I think.
What was Mick Harris? Was Mick Harris gone by then?
I think he was still in them, I think.
Okay, so that was a very early lineup. And how old were they? They must have been. Mick Harris
Jack was 17 and DJing. Who cares how old were they?
Well, no, I mean it's just kind of impressive that they actually, once John Peel featured them, suddenly these 15-year-old Birmingham working class boys were in the spotlight of, I guess, kind of underground rock culture, and it was pretty amazing.
So, okay, Jack, you're DJing Napalm Death at 17. What music were you into before that?
I mean, with music, so I was really lucky. I had an older friend when I was like 12 and he was like 14 and he had an older sister. So it was just like a straight line of industrial music like Throbbing Gristle and stuff, and the stuff like Joy Division, just straight into my brain from a really young age. And also growing up with John Peel, I just, so I was 12 in 1980 and I got given one of those digital clock radios that you had as a kid. And I go to sleep every night. I was in my bedroom every night at 10 o'clock and just listen to John Peel for 2 hours.
America really didn't have an equivalent to John Peel because, I mean, you could go back in time and say, oh, Wolfman Jack or other DJs like that. But as far as the music of the time that was being played, we had various radio stations that might have been college radio stations. But John Peel was so instrumental in shining a light in those darkest of musical corners.
Also, people like, in America, once someone has a career, usually they try to do the best to sustain that career, and that's commodification of stuff. Where John Peel went out and went outward. He kept on spreading. And so culture was really, as far as I observed, was much more important than his career necessarily.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally right. I mean, he just immersed the listener in music that he liked, and he would just flip from like, oh, here's a classic from, The Fall or something, to, oh, here's a reggae album that's just come out, and this is a demo tape I've got from someone, and he would just be flipping between all this
Certainly
stuff.
the first place person that ever played Teenage Jesus on the radio, and maybe the last.
I mean, no,
Rightfully
he
so.
introduced so much stuff. There's so much stuff that, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah, when you're young and you're growing up and you're just listening to that, and it was every night of the week. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, and then Friday they had like a heavy rock show, which wasn't really my thing. And but I listened to it sometimes. But the John Peel's every night, yeah, it's 4 nights a week was just.
So you had a lot of catching up to do only because you were so young. You're 12 in 1980. Punk rock is, you know, no wave is, there, a lot of what you then probably came to research was already almost over.
Well, there's
The origins of it.
I was reading Thurston's biography, autobiography, and he's got this kind of memory for every gig he's ever been to, and I've got that to an extent. And I remember that I started going to gigs really young, and I was like 6 foot when I was 14. So I was going to gigs from probably 15, well, 14 onwards. I was like 14 when I saw the birthday party and the Dead Kennedy. So I would be going to these gigs as well, and it was just like, you'd be putting stuff together in your head and seeing stuff, and just it was a time where there was so much stuff, like the
You were living in
networks.
Brighton at the time.
Yeah, yeah, I was in Brighton, and the networks created by punk was still there. So there was the punk promoters and stuff, but they would be putting on, from what, and I don't like all those labels, but post-punk, goth,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. So there was all these people would be coming, and because Brighton was 50 miles from London, I would see everything because they'd all come and do a gig. So I was seeing gigs really young and seeing a lot of live music. And it's interesting because like you start thinking about this, and if so much of what my thinking has been influenced by, you reading those record covers and the liner notes would like have lists, thank you lists, and you'd start like researching the bands in the thank you lists, and you'd start, there'd be a reference in an interview or something. Remember in England, we had 3 weekly newspapers. We had the NME,
That
Sound.
covered a lot of, that covered a lot of stuff. And we had some monthly magazines, which by say 82 or 3 were already gone. Then we had a few weekly, newspapers in both New York and Los Angeles and various other places. But yeah, they weren't focused exclusively on music the way that at one time in the 70s, Cream Magazine or Rock Scene might have been. But you had the 3 weekly music papers that were covering just about everything that was out there.
Well, I think because they were weekly, there's not enough bands to fill that up. So bands who would probably normally gestate and never be discovered would get a page. So especially you had writers like Chris Bond and stuff who would be going out and finding, obscure stuff to write about. And I mean,
well,
when
Chris,
you think
Chris
about
Bond, Bibikoff, who's now the head of the Wire magazine.
yeah, and I mean, and he would be writing. I'm fairly certain he wrote this article. It was an article that came out in NME in, I'm going to say 84, 85, called Hardcore. But it wasn't really about hardcore. It was about stuff like Swans, Sonic Youth, things like that. But all like kind of bands that were hard and intense rather than hardcore, the genre. And I just remember like it was like a shopping list, and you would just read this and then just go out and find these records. And we go up to London to Rough Trade or whatever and buy records.
And Kathy Unsworth, a good friend of the podcast, also came out of writing for Sounds and various music magazines at a very early age as well, during that very scene at that very time. Culminating in her latest book, Season of the Witch, which is all about the goth and beyond culture and the politics of that time.
Oh, well, I mean, that's it. The politics of that time was so important because it was under Thatcherism, which is obviously, we were all basically left school and went onto the dole, which,
if only.
it was a blessing because we were like 17, 18, 19 years old and getting just enough money to live off and spending it on records and gigs,
So how did you first decide, or how did you just plop into the DJ possibility there?
So we were all unemployed. I want to get, my timeline might be slightly skewed, right? But I lived in a share house with people who were putting on gigs. and I was putting on gigs as well. So there was that aspect of things where we would be like, that's very much part of my character. Like, you want to see something, if no one's going to do it, you phone up the band and say, do you want to come and play? And you realize that they're desperate to play, and you can get a pub for, you know, a room in a pub and a PA and do it. So there was that. But because I was unemployed, they started these kind of work for the dole schemes, which politically I'd be against. But I got to do one where I got to do like arts management for 2 days a week. And they basically, I was doing arts management at a venue in Brighton, I know you know, called the Zap Club, which was like, it was 2 arches on Brighton seafront. And they put on stuff like really what became known as like alternative comedy and cabaret, but they also put on gigs. I know you did spoken word there. They put on loads of bands. Every week there'd be a band. The Swans came and played in there. And if you recall, the Zap Club had a capacity of about 200 people, and they had a PA for a venue for about 5,000 people. So the whole street was vibrating, which was wonderful. And then Sonic Youth played outside the Zap Club. So there was all this stuff happening. And one of the promoters putting on gigs there said, "Oh, you like all this weird stuff? Do you want to come and DJ Napalm Death?"
And you'd spent all your
well,
money from the
I
dole
might
anyway,
have been
buying records from Rough Trade Record Shop.
Yeah. So
how many people showed up to that show?
The Napalm Death one sold out.
Okay.
It sold out. But I remember because I think they wanted me to DJ like thrash, but the first thing I put on was Sweatloaf, the Butthole Surfers, with that long "Daddy, what does regret mean?" at the beginning, and you could just see everyone waiting just for it to kick off. And of course, once it kicks off, everyone's just sitting at the bar, nodding their, you know. So it was, yeah, I remember that being a lot of fun. But yeah, so I mean, I got into doing all that stuff. Yeah, as I say, I was probably 17, 18, 19, 20, putting on gigs. And
so how do you communicate with your daughter, as you're telling me and telling Lydia and the audience the story of research, which basically builds on top of itself, keeps on going to the point where you're actually DJing these kind of renegade shows, and now your daughter's into grindcore. And does she understand the stepping stones it took for you to even be part of that scene, to where everything's served on a platter of everything that existed in grindcore history right in front of her? Does she appreciate
and
that?
actually, Tim, good question, because when I was talking to his daughter, who was just getting out of some crappy band, I said, be a DJ. I actually told her, you should be a DJ. There's more money, then less disappointment. Don't think you're going to have a band. Nobody needs another band. Really, we don't.
she's actually doing a lot of lighting for gigs now. So she lights gigs for young bands and stuff, which is interesting. But no, I mean, it's interesting because she wanted to go and see the Pixies last year. And she was like, well, I was like, because I'm not interested in going. And she said, no, I don't want you to come with me. I'm going with my friend. And I was thinking, oh, you're quite young. She said, Dad, you said you saw these gigs when you were 14 and I'm 14. And I was like, well, I lost that argument.
Yeah. All right, so let's go from your interest in music at that time, because then at the same time, even a little before perhaps that you started DJing, right around that is when the New York Cinema of Transgression happened, and that was one of your first major releases, was Deathtripping, about the Cinema of Transgression. So how did you even get information on that in Brighton from what was going on in New York?
So I think you performed and they screened Right Side of My Brain before you talked. And I was at that, I think, and that's where I first saw it. But because of the whole video nasty thing in England, and videos, various horror films and stuff being banned, I was one of those kids who immediately wanted to see what I was told I couldn't. So it was just a natural progression for me. And also an awareness that the intensity that was in the music I was listening to or the books I was reading, I wanted that same intensity in other art forms. I didn't want to, listen to some noise record and then go off and watch, Star Wars or something. I wanted something that had the same kind of impact and visceral impact on me and the same kind of inspiration on me as the music I was listening to. So it was natural that I would search out film and performance art and visual art and so on that would have that same intensity, and that's something I'm always looking for that, something that got that intensity. I'm older now and I can appreciate stuff that's not intense, but I still really enjoy finding stuff that's got that kind of visceral intensity.
Well, do you think it's more difficult as, first of all, the knowledge that you already have of both music, art, literature, and film, that what is really hardcore, meaning not hardcore music, but hardcore at this point? Let me just ask you, like, what are some of the recent films or books that you've seen that you thought, oh, yeah, there we go? Because, I mean, there has been a dip and flow in what people were doing, how they were doing it. I mean, if we go back to the Cinema of Transgression, nobody gave a shit about whether it would get shown or not. These were just forms of expression that had to be made, zero budget or drug money budget. That's it. And, they were intense because they were real life experiences created by real life hooligans. So, what recently have you said, yeah, that's what it's about?
So, seeing you and Mark perform, that's still got that intensity. It's like,
Thank you very
that
much.
what Mark was doing with the electronic aspect of suicide, of just kind of deconstructing and reconstructing it, and it was you on top of that. That had an intensity to it.
Thank you very much.
But I mean, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I still see films and stuff that have that intensity, not in the same way necessarily, but they still have an intensity. I mean, I really enjoyed David Cronenberg's son's film, Brandon Cronenberg, his film Infinity Pool, which isn't Cinema of Transgression kind of stuff, but it's still got this kind of, I mean, it's about a bunch of tourists stuck in a hotel at the end of season, and it's very visceral, and it explores all these ideas around the body and existence and what correct behavior is, and colonialism, and all these kind of questions are in there. So something like that, speaks.
I mean, does underground film exist at this point? Because it seems like we used underground film as just another form of expression, and now everybody's just, there's either it's, a 30-second TikTok video where everybody just wants to be as dumb as possible and get as many likes and fans as possible for no fucking good reason whatsoever, as opposed to actually, bleeding on celluloid, as some of us did do.
Yeah, I mean, there's underground stuff happening, or stuff that's really imaginative happening. It's not necessarily the same kind of bleeding on celluloid kind of stuff. But I mean, there's people making films that are visually kind of stunning and explore, the medium and all that kind of stuff.
But the collective experience that brought like-minded people like yourself to other people like yourself of these underground transgressive things, I would argue, and I think many people would agree, it's not necessarily through film anymore. It's through, who knows, some kind of deep fake joke prank on some kind of hierarchical
plotting.
I mean, but I don't know. I'm not deep into the underground film world, but definitely the collective experience of like society imbibing films is not what it once was. I mean, people kind of gather. Oh my God! At least what I can tell.
I think part of it's because culture has changed. I mean, that we're talking about is 40 years old, and I think that young people are finding their own kind of way to express themselves and stuff. And in a way, that's how it should be. I mean, it should be different from what was done before.
I have to say that one of the most hardcore books I've read recently, and I don't even know who this guy is. I don't even know how I came to this book. It's called The Slob by Aaron Beauregard, which I'm sure is a pseudonym. And it was really one of the most atrocious yet provocative yet I couldn't put it down books. And I have to recommend it. I mean, the only book that had the same visceral effect on me before that might have been Samuel Delaney's Hog, which was banned for quite a few years. So I'm recommending that book to you, Jack, because it's just so outlandish. I
will check that out. I mean, there's publishers like Infinity Land Press who are doing some really great books, combining kind of great photography and visuals with experimental writing, poetry, and nonfiction.
And that's out of the UK.
Yeah, they're out of the UK. So there's and there's other emergent publishing houses as well. I actually see I have a habit of posting books I'm reading on social media because I've got to post something. And there's a lot of young publisher and emerging kind of independent publishing houses out there, which I find really interesting. And it's like they kind of they're doing interesting things. A lot of these young publishing houses. I want to start naming them because I'm drawing a blank. I think it's Pig Roast Publishing out of America is one.
Well, that's our good friend Jeff Schneider.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amphetamine Sulfate Books out of America. There's Ruin Press out of Sydney. So there's lots of kind of emerging publishing houses. It's not necessarily.
Well, and I still find literature a valid and necessary form, mainly because it's a perfectly onanistic endeavor, which I think, especially in this day and age, when people think they're communing with all these people they've never met, which is bullshit, that actually when you pick up a book and read it, you are having a pretty intimate relationship with the writer of it, who probably doesn't want to know who the fuck you are anyway. Just had to get it out of their system.
And maybe I was saying earlier about young people doing things differently, and maybe the return to publishing in a way is because people are bored of that kind of fake social media chatter, and people that these emergent writers and indie publishing companies are kind of a reaction to that, the importance of the physical book and so on. So, and I mean, there's something really powerful about having a physical book,
Oh, I agree. I want to smell it. Especially I want to smell like a really old paperback of something like Henry Miller's Tropic of Capricorn or Tropic of Cancer. I want to smell that yellow page.
Well, what about so new bookstores versus used bookstores? They both have a unique smell, and it's pretty much the same every time. It's like that's what a used bookstore smells like, and that's what a new one smells like. I don't know what that is. I mean, the used ones don't smell like rotting people. They just smell like, I guess, the pages have been open. I don't know what that is. I always wondered.
What's the latest book that you published, Jack?
I've not had one published for about 5 years, but I'm finishing one still at the moment. It takes me a lot longer to write. I think COVID really slowed me down because of trying to focus in that time was very, I found that very hard. But I've got lots of essays in things. So I did an introduction for a book by Infinity Land Press. I did a short piece for a collection they did as well. So I seem to have done a lot of book intros and stuff in the last couple of years. But I mean, it's like I feel that for me, the writing process, I'm in my head a lot, and I seem to be in my head more and more, thinking about ideas and stuff. At some point, I'm going to have to write a philosophy book or something because I've got notebooks everywhere. I just live surrounded by notebooks,
Well, and also in working with the Revelation Film Festival out of Perth, I mean, does that take up a lot of your time just finding films to program?
I watch hundreds of films, hundreds.
Yeah. Wow. So there you go.
But that's like an indie film festival rather than an underground one. So I watch a lot of indie films for that. I watch a lot of documentaries for that. A lot of again, lots of young emergent kind of filmmakers and stuff I'm watching for that, which is good. But I mean, again, this isn't transgressive stuff. It's good. It's imaginative, but it's not the stuff that I was writing books about. Yeah. But that's fine. I mean, people don't have to be exactly what I wrote books about.
I thought that Promising Young Woman back to back with Saltburn was a pretty good, modern tale of revenge from both ends of the aisle, I have to say.
Look, it's interesting, Saltburn, because there's a bit of mild outrage among people about the bathtub scene.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. It's so beautiful.
Brilliant. It's such a great,
it's gorgeous. And the end scene, without giving anything away, I mean, the very last 2 minutes of it are just fantastic. And knowing that he had to do it like 11 times.
Yeah, of course.
and then, of course, I mean, Murder on the Dance Floor as the theme, then, of course, gives new light to the artist that recorded that song in whatever the 90s. Who was it? Sophie
Ellis-Bextor.
Yeah, it's a great song. I watched them back to back, and I thought there was, first of all, I could see the progression in the filmmaker, writer, director herself, but I thought it was very good to do a female revenge film backed by a male classist revenge film. It was really, both were really well done.
The movie series I've heard Lydia talk the most about in the last year and a half is Puss in Boots. On the airplane, because you're on the airplane and you have well 300 movies.
But I'm a legend.
And that was the one she kept on going back to. She would skim through
Well,
it.
because yes, no, I have to say I did love Puss in Boots 2 better than 1. Because on an airplane there isn't much choice. They're all really bland, so you might as well go for something. And I don't even tend to aim towards animation of any sort. Last animation I liked was Felix the Cat, 1930s. I must say, Puss in Boots, pretty freaking cute.
When you're on a plane, your viewing just changes because that screen is only like 5 inches across. So when I'm on a plane, I don't want to watch something that's going to be really good, or something that's going to demand intellectual activity,
or something that's going to be just so stupid that it's beyond the beyond. Well, I don't know what I'm going to be watching on my way to you soon, because I will be heading to Australia in March. So God knows I'm going to have to fill up that with something.
When I was flying back from England last month, I was watching the Fast and the Furious 10 X. Whatever it's called.
My God! Well, go ahead.
It's just you can't dislike it because it's a car chase for 2.5 hours. So you sit there, you sleep a bit, you wake up and it's still on.
Well, if we're talking about really dumb stuff, I mean, I really like Deadpool.
That was entertainingly dumb.
Very good. And even like Suicide Squad, Margot Robbie can do no wrong.
Right. No, Margot Robbie's great. I mean,
haven't seen Barbie, probably won't, but anyway, she's fantastic. I will watch Tanya again. She was amazing in that.
Tanya's good, but did you see Babylon with her in?
I did, and I did like Babylon, yeah.
I thought that was just wild,
It was beautiful. And, it does touch on the way we know Hollywood was at once, and to the most part, probably still is in some corners.
No, and the excess of that film was great. I mean, you're sitting there watching it; it just doesn't stop. I like
and it's huge, and it's a huge spectacle. I mean, I never go to the cinema worried about bed bugs. Thank you very much. Or the latest report, AMC in New York, mice running across people's feet. No, thank you. But that was so huge. The film Babylon was immense, and that's interesting sometimes.
But you're talking about the mice in the cinema. I mean, part of my growing up experience was sitting in art house cinemas. So from a really young age, I'd be going to gigs, but I'd also be going to the cinema, to late night movies, which, to anyone under the age of 30, they don't know what that is. But late night movies was like a lifeline. So I'd be going to the cinema like 11 o'clock at night, midnight for double bills, triple bills. And you can still smoke in cinemas then. So everyone would be smoking. There'd be this fog of cigarette smoke. It was great.
Yeah, I had this period. I had this student who has to vote for. I'm not gonna throw him under the bus. He has to vote for the Academy, and so in January, all the movies that are potentially up in New York, LA, these cities, they kind of bring them back. And so he gave me his Writers Guild pass, and so I could just go to movies for free all the time because they weren't checking the fucking ID. And but it was that I was showing up on a Sunday night at midnight to the point where I was like, what is wrong with me? I don't think it's a little too much, but rat infested movie theaters, absolutely. And then we also had bed bugs in those those cushion seats. It was movie theater. So it was getting kind of rough.
We never had bed bugs. I don't think I ever saw a rat in the cinema as a kid. I've maybe seen rats in the cinema once or twice, but very rarely, But I live in the middle of the city.
I don't like the communal experience of going to a cinema.
You also hate the smell of popcorn.
I hate the smell of popcorn. I can't take it. Yeah, so I don't go. No.
They're going to late nights. It was never popcorn because this was like the 80s art house kind of circuit.
Right. It smelled like spunk and cigarettes.
Yeah, spunk, cigarettes, and coffee.
Nice. Oh, I can deal with it.
It was kind of ideal. And I think that those places as places to grow up, as at gigs and at the cinema, and going trains to London to buy records, and you go to Rough Trade, and you go to the bookshop, Compendium, and you go to and you just there'd be this, and it was great, this search for weird books, weird music, and weird movies,
So you're into all this stuff. two questions. What do you think about movies about musicians? And then here, and not even documentaries are one thing, but what about just these fucking drama movies in general?
Has there been a good one?
I mean, I don't know.
Privilege, 1960 something.
Amadeus was a little entertaining, but whatever. You know,
that's a really look. I
hate them in general, just to let you know. But go ahead. I want to hear what you have to think about these.
When I watched a biopic about musicians, I saw the one about NWA, and I like that. Was it Straight Outta Compton?
Okay,
and I like that. Look, like everyone else, I like Spinal Tap.
Yeah, but that's something else. That's something else.
So, but I mean, films about musicians. I mean, a lot of the time, they don't seem to catch the urgency.
And the worst part is always if they have a club scene. That's just awful.
Oh God, the club scenes, and it's like they send out a researcher who goes to one club, and it's like, this is what club.
Okay, I have a good one. How about Control by Anton Corbijn about Joy Division? That was good.
That was good. Yeah,
that
was a good one.
That was a good one.
But I mean, the parts about bands that are interesting when they're young and they're starting is like four people in a van who hate each other driving around, and that doesn't make for an entertaining movie. So the movie has to be them becoming famous, and then when they become famous, they hate each other, and it's just like, it's a kind of really. The reality is much more interesting than the.
Well, it's also rarely about music. It's about just because people in general don't really know how to. They don't really know much about music, so they have to talk about just the drama of these people's lives. Also, because musicians in general, a good musician can act if they have to. An actor trying to be a musician,
terrible.
The visceral relationship that a musician will have with sound isn't a relationship that maybe other people, even if they have it, they're not aware of it.
Right.
And how do you articulate that in a film? Like that, the pleasure of finding how a song working. Like we can only think. We in the general sense only think of the odd stuff, like, oh wow, they recorded this song 95 times. Oh, they counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 100 times in this. But that's not what it's about. It's how do you articulate the excitement of being a musician and creating something?
The horror.
Yeah.
Do you ever see the documentary? So documentaries are different, but did you ever see the documentary on Lightning Hopkins?
Oh no, I didn't.
This is pretty powerful. Very, very little talking. Mostly just playing. Really capturing some moments. Him crying, spitting blood in a bucket. Just keeps on going. I mean, it's heavy. It's not.
The Little Richard documentary was great.
That was really good. Look, I like the Albert Ayler documentary as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, music documentaries are a hard one as well, because they invariably end up with people looking back on it. And you want that energy of the youth rather than a bunch of old people saying, "Oh, and then we did this, and then we did this." You want that. The magic is in that explosion at the beginning, And I don't know how
why you love Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
What about the Decline of Western Society series?
Oh, yeah, those
Civilization.
Ones.
Is it Western Civilization? Yeah, sorry.
I mean, that's all live, isn't it? So it's like.
But that's how I was bringing it up, because that's kind of is real time. It's.
Like, in terms of one that is really nice for capturing something like lightning in a bottle, I guess, is Charlie Is My Darling, the one about the Rolling Stones touring Ireland in 1963.
Never saw it.
The Dr. Feelgood documentary was great too.
I don't know if I've seen that one. I don't think
really good.
I'll check one out. Oh, okay. So one film that was, I don't know what I think about it, but I enjoyed it when I watched it, was the biopic of Ian Dury.
I just saw a few of the songs from that. I don't know if it was from the bio, but it was like a live Ian Dury concert toward the end of his life that was on like free TV. I saw like a few songs. I was like, he was very interesting. Actually, it was better than I thought he was.
Yeah, no, I actually saw him perform when I was 11. My mum took me to Ian Dury.
Reasons to be cheerful. He didn't have too many, did he?
It was no, but no, it was he had Wilco Johnson playing on the tour. I saw
amazing
guitar.
Back to Dr. Feelgood.
And I actually think that I spoke about it with Terry Edwards one time. I think it came up in conversation, but yeah, I remember seeing Andrew, and the support was blurred. blurt for the supports.
Oh yes, we just did a double bill, or no, it was a festival in Italy this summer with Blurt.
They're such a great band.
Oh,
They were when I was 12, 11.
Yeah, sure. I mean, going back to Napalm Death, you ever see the grindcore documentary, Slave to the Grind?
I haven't seen that. I see a lot of music documentaries.
Sure.
Because that's exactly the kind of thing that you put on at a film festival. So I've seen a lot, but no one ever sent me that one, so I haven't seen that one.
It's free online.
Hunt it down. Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be pretty good to see. Actually, I'd like to see that.
It's informative.
Yeah. I watched there was one Until the Light Takes Us about black metal.
Oh yes, of course.
Interesting, but that was more like an art piece.
Yes, I think Slave to the Grind's more informative, but
yeah,
whatever it takes. So, what about Australian extreme metal bands? You ever go check out some of them?
Oh God, extreme metal? No.
There's quite a few.
How much time did you spend, say, versus Brighton to Australia? What was that trajectory first? Let's go into just your physical history, Brighton to Australia.
Oh well, I didn't go to Australia until I was in my 30s.
Okay.
So,
why did you go?
Why?
Why?
My partner's from here, and because England just sucks. At a certain point, England is just unbearable.
Yeah.
Do you still hold that opinion?
Yes.
Look, I love my friends there, my family.
Sure.
But I mean, it's when you go away from somewhere and then you go back, you're really aware of what's happened and time passing. And Britain feels like it's had a really bad political run, in my opinion, with austerity and stuff. And it seems like life there is really hard. And that makes
America.
Yeah. And it feels hard to me. And that makes me sad. I worry about people there. But there's nothing I can do about it. But, and it's weird because it's weird to talk about being, I mean, Lydia must have this. It's weird to kind of think of yourself as an immigrant when the very concept is like, I don't really believe in borders and stuff. I want to be where I am. But once you leave where you grew up, it's always strange to go back. I mean, you spent, 10 years in Barcelona?
I spent 8 years in Barcelona, but I mean, I've lived in many
all over
cities.
The place.
All over them. And I mean, to me, wherever I am is where I'm at. So, and
Exactly,
I always want to move. Trust me, every week I'm thinking, where should I move to?
Yeah, I'm the same. And it's like, I've still never been to Latin America.
That's why we're road dogs.
Yeah. And I think I'm always really happy when I'm on an airplane going somewhere else.
Well, I'm always happy when I get there. I can't say I'm happy on the airplane, but then again, I usually try to just go to sleep.
I like that sense of anticipation. When you're on a plane, just the anticipating what's going to happen. Who am I going to see?
Well, Tim's a total road dog too. We're all road dogs here.
I mean, and to me, you're talking about being, films about musicians. That sense of being on the road as a musician. One film that I really like for that is the Bob Dylan one. From Pennybaker, where he's just driving around England doing all the gigs, and you're just like, you get that sense of what it's like just being in a car, driving from gig to gig to gig, chatting to people backstage, going to a hotel, getting in the car, and
did you ever do the coast to coast Australian drive?
I've never driven across the country. It's on the agenda. I've driven up and down the north to south, or halfway from Brisbane to Melbourne, kind of that part. I've never driven across. I mean, I'd love to. The Nullarbor Plain. I mean, there's not a single Nullarbor. There's no trees. And it's the largest, flattest place on the planet. And they have things out there like they're called Min lights, which is I guess they're lights that people see out there floating around, which I always thought was really fascinating. There's a kind of Fortean phenomenon, I guess.
Okay, all right, I didn't know about those. So if you go to Perth, you always fly. Okay,
I always fly because it's work.
It's a long way.
Oh, I know it's roughly the same as continental United States.
Yeah, no, it's LA, New York. It's
exactly. Same fucking thing.
But LA, New York, you've got lots of places in between. Sydney, Perth, you've got Adelaide, and that's it basically. You can detour a bit to Melbourne, but that's it. There's a lot of emptiness, which I kind of like. I find that really kind of fascinating. That I'm interested in how where I am affects me. And growing up in England, which is you got a weight of history and a weight of kind of class and stuff like that. And then you come to a
It's just
country.
it's oppressive in many ways, the same way that America is oppressive in many ways. And for some reason, maybe because of my immigrant or nomad status, certainly when I'm in any other country and Australia, I mean, I just don't feel the same oppression because I'm just traveling through.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. That you escape that oppression that you feel, but also like I get a sense being in Australia, there's a totally different history of people here,
Yep.
and which I mean, I'm not privileged enough to know it, but yeah, I'm aware there's 60,000 years of human history here, which is and it seems really different to me, and I like that, but I'm really aware, of course, of there's a whole history of white people thinking that. So one has to kind of take that on board. But it's something that fascinates me, and I'd like to travel. I like to live in other countries because of that. Like whenever I go away, I try and visit somewhere I've never been. Like I love Iceland, for example, which I randomly went to, and it was great.
Yes, and they're having some volcanic activity there right now. Well, they often do, but it's pretty major right now. And I
just had a small earthquake in Queens today, Tim.
Well, yes, that was pretty exciting. It was a nice, really tough 1.7.
No biggie.
No biggie, but that's always interesting when New York has a little earthquake.
There's just been this one in the ocean, right off of Japan.
Oh yes, and it led to because we had the U.S. Coast Guard trying to help, and there was a Japanese airliner that hit one of the U.S. Coast Guard planes and killed 7 people. So it was.
Did you see the film of that? The Japanese plane landing?
Didn't.
Oh, it landed. The film it was in the paper today. The Guardian had it, and the plane lands. Presumably because I'm not a scientist, but presumably it's because it's got fuel from the little plane that it hit on it. It catches fire as it lands, and it lands as a fireball. It's absolutely insane. But all the people in it got out. They were fine.
Yes, they did. Yeah,
but the actual plane lands like a ball of fire. There was film from outside, but also filmed from inside, the people filming out the window.
Sure. I mean, I remember when the whole Fukushima disaster happened, and I was coming up for a gig or something. It was really late here. It was 4 a.m. or something. Had the TV on. They're like, okay, we just had this earthquake, and here's the tsunami. I mean, in real time, watching the tsunami come. It was so insane. I was like, I guess for people that didn't live in New York, it was kind of like watching 9/11 from like the outside. It was like, holy shit. I can't believe what I'm watching here. So how often do you go to Japan?
I've never been to Japan.
Really?
Except to change aeroplanes. All I've done is change planes. So I'd love to spend some time there. I'd love to. I've got friends who go out there who are like artists and stuff and musicians. And that's great. But I've never had that good fortune, unfortunately. But I think, again, all these places, they all have these histories and these kind of cultures that I'm fascinated by all this stuff. And it's like, you want to experience as much as you can, So I would love to be much more nomadic, So.
Well, because you're a cultural investigator of many forms of the underground, and that's what you do. That's what feeds you, and then you chew it up and spit it back into the public's face in your various installations, art exhibits, exhibitions, film festivals, and books.
I want people to be as excited about everything as I am, which is, to me, that sense of, wow, look what's happening over here. Look at this, listen to this. I think that's really important.
Well, it is. And it's exactly why we do this podcast, which is winding down right now, because this is and has been and will continue to be, at least for some time, the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dolan, Jack Sargeant, cultural underground investigator of all sorts. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Jack. Sorry to miss you this time around, but I look forward to seeing you whenever we do see each other.